Vegito collapses.
Oh yeah, let's start the show.
Onto the ground and instantly reverts to base form, losing his horn as a wave of exhaustion hits him. And as he huffs and puffs from the sudden loss in energy, he surprisingly appears to be totally confused over wherever he even is, as he ponders, what happened? Where am I? My head. Before Vegito then begins grabbing his throbbing head and continuing, my body, it's full of injuries. Was I fighting someone? I was. That kid. That god. No son of mine, that's for sure. But Vegito, now denying Zykor's link to him and any associated guilt, would just look to the sky and think deeply. But besides that, it looks like what Madara said was actually true. There seems to exist far more gods than I had ever anticipated. Every universe, every timeline is plagued by them in some way. Just as expected, even the timeline with that kid resulted in everyone being wiped out. It's just as I thought. These gods can never be trusted, and not one can be left alive. And with his thoughts complete, and vendetta against the gods stronger than ever, Vegito would lift his hand, commenting ominously, I need to find out more about what Madara said. There must be a way to save every timeline and universe from the rule of these monsters. I must learn just how many more of these cockroaches I must dispatch of. And possibly from the one god that would be forced to tell me something. And so in front of the god killer, just as planned, a portal would open. And finally, without any known distractions, no more Zycor, Vegito would begin slowly walking to enter the portal to a totally new timeline. But just as he approaches, something catches his eye as if traveling towards him at speed. What the? And suddenly, within the blink of an eye right behind, a ball of what looks like concentrated destruction energy appears right behind the god killer and ready to erase him. But of course, with the attack being noticed, Vegito's impressive speed allows him to dodge out of the way with ease as it lands on the ground and explodes vigorously. Now who dares attack me from behind? Come out, coward! Instantly triggering Vegito to turn around and lash out in anger. Looks like I missed. But shockingly, as we finally see who the attacker is unexplainably Iwan, god of destruction of Universe 1. For some reason, having returned alone despite running away earlier, and completely aware of the massive gulf of power difference between himself and the god killer. What? You've got to be kidding me! Even surprising Vegito too, as he slowly then descends back to the ground before standing to face off with the destroyer, wondering if this was some kind of trick. But a smirk soon appears on the god killer's face as he then stares at Iwan and lets out, "Unbelievable! You actually showed up all alone to challenge me, destroyer? The overconfidence of you gods has reached an all-time high. This is basically a death wish, you know. I thought you last two runts were going to run and cling for the rest of your lives until I finally found you. I planned on taking you out later on, in fact. But sure, if you want to give me a little energy snack now, who am I to stop you?" But a concerningly calm Iwan, with his arms behind him regally, would just respond without a hint of fear. "Run and cling to life? Don't be ridiculous. I didn't run from you, god killer. I merely retreated to get the tools I needed to defeat you. I was surprised you were able to beat Guts, but Madara too? Now that was a surprise. Though little did you know, it would only serve to lead to your inevitable destruction." As suddenly, Iwan changes to what seems like an eccentric fighting position, with his arms out wide and his fingers separated and moving as if controlling puppets. But Vegito, watching on, can't help but be amused with a smirk, commenting, "Now what kind of silly fighting stance is that, destroyer? Is that something you gods use? Because you're completely open, I hope you know. What are you trying to do over there? Fight me with your fingers?" To which in response, Iwan's eyes suddenly turn from relaxed to far more serious in demeanor, as his eyelids crease in and he simply replies, "Fight with my fingers? How observant, god killer. Why don't you just find out for yourself, if you dare?" And as if not being needed to be told twice ever, Vegito would instantly bite onto Iwan's offer and rush in straight for the god of destruction, his arms still folded as he does so in the ultimate sign of disrespect. And with a smirk that continues to increase, he would just say mid-flight, find out for myself? Who do you think I am, you damn weakling? I'm about to find out what your energy tastes like. Within literal nanoseconds, just in base, Vegito's insane speed leads him to appear right in front of Iwan, who still sports his intense look, for some reason, still not scared at all. But instantly, just as he does so and reaches Iwan's vicinity, something is sensed by Vegito, a danger like no other, yet still familiar, as he mumbles at the last second, "This energy! No!" What? As out of nowhere, both Guts and Madara appear, striking Vegito from both sides, with the shock Saiyan just barely at the last moment, blocking both attacks, but with a stare towards Guts in particular, as he lets out, "You! How? Yeah!" And with his full strength, Vegito then launches his arms out, pushing both Guts and Madara back with full force. The two members of the five strongest instantly shooting back, unable to push forward. Guts! Madara! What's the meaning of this? As once separated, Vegito reacts in pure shock and confusion, not being able to explain at all how both the first and second members of the five strongest, yet defeated already, were now back and seemingly at full health and strength. All the while, both Guts and Madara remain ominously silent. And as the two silent legendary warriors then jump back to retreat into position, behind them, suddenly a figure appears. And of course, it is what seems like their master himself, God of Destruction Iwan, using the two warriors now as a shield as he stands behind them with his hands up for some reason, commenting, "That's it, boys. Work together now. What's wrong, God Killer? You seem confused. Maybe you should take a closer look." And shockingly, as we peer closer, from the end of Iwan's fingertips, barely visible thin transparent strands of energy are seen, and most notably, all attached to the limbs and body parts of Guts and Madara. As Iwan then explains, "Notice yet, God Killer? You see, these two, you so generously left their bodies intact for me. Not knowing my signature ability is the forbidden power of reanimation. These two monsters are now back to full power and completely under my control. Shells of themselves, but my greatest weapons now. My greatest puppets." What? But as soon as Vegito learns the truth behind Guts and Madara's return to the living world, a sudden rage overcomes him as his teeth begin to grit and veins bulge all over his face, and he grumbles back, "You did what to them? You damn weakling! You have no right to use the bodies of those in leagues far above you. For the sake of their honor, you will die a horrid death, destroyer!" But as Vegito threatens the god in the first appearance of Iwan's mouth ever seen in the history of Dragon Ball, the destroyer immediately bursts out into laughter, saying back, "What's wrong, Vegito? I seem to have struck a nerve with you, haven't I? Were you really that close to these two? Funny. because it was you who killed them, which I think is a far more worse thing to do. Either way, God Killer, you should know better than anyone. All is fair in love and war. But on hearing this, finally the angered state of Vegito that he had earlier dissipates, and in its place, instead a smirk and laughter of his own from the God Killer emerges as he giggles. No, to be honest, you are right. They did fall by my hand. I think I'm just more annoyed that you stole my move, Destroyer. As suddenly, the God Killer reopens his eyes, revealing they are now completely blackened, and meaning only one thing, as a certain technique is then unlocked, and Vegito yells, "How about we bring out my own guts and Madara, fool?" As instantly, besides Vegito, appears of course the energy apparitions of both Guts and Madara, gained from when he absorbed each of their energies, as with a cocky smirk from behind the two, Vegito would say, "Recognize these two, Iwan? These are made up of their true energies, not those lame counterfeits you have. Now tell me now what?" And immediately, a reaction of pure terror and bewilderment flushes over Iwan, having never ever seen this technique from the God Killer before, as he mumbles while stepping back in fear. No, this can't be. I found their bodies. They belong to me. I reanimated them completely. There cannot be another with my ability. But the fear soon drops as Iwan then moves his fingers to assemble his puppets and begins convincing himself, "No, these must be illusions. You will not fool me, God Killer. Guts, Madara, destroy this fraud!" And immediately, on the orders of their puppet master, both the real-life Guts and Madara then immediately rush in at Vegito with the full force of the originals. But as they do, Vegito just begins to grin wider and wider, as he thinks, "Perfect. Now this will be just the test I need. Go! Show this fool what your power was really like!" As Vegito then suddenly points his two fingers straight towards Iwan's puppets and commands his own apparitions in the exact same way. Just like that, within seconds, both sets of the legendary five would be within inches of each other until... Through a raucous of loud yells and collisions, both sets of Guts and Madara would clash viciously with each other, being equal at every turn. And with their brief skirmish coming to no victor, each of the duo of legendary warriors lands back with their owners, with a slam, with Iwan reacting, "What? What are you doing?" As Vegito reacts, "Not bad. Your reanimation actually somehow gave them their original strength." But once Iwan realizes that his puppets really are no stronger than the ones the God Killer has inexplicably created, a shade of dark blue slides on his face, as in total fear, he yells, "No! How is this happening? Those things, they are the real deal. They're the same as my puppets. Leaving the smug Vegito to now fold his arms, still surrounded by dancing black lightning, and comments, "Oh, the little Yeti looks a little blue. I did tell you, didn't I? You should know by now. I'm a man of my word. But don't worry, I'm also a man who craves a challenge, so I have no intention of making this so easy." Before immediately snapping his fingers with a beaming smile, saying, "How about this? Better?" And just like that, both energy apparitions of Guts and Madara would then disappear without a trace, with them for some reason no longer needed by the God Killer. Before finally we get our explanation, with Vegito then suddenly powering up to his Ultra form, combining both Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego as he does so, yelling out, "Come on then! Send those walking dead men! Let us see just how much stronger I am now!" And as Vegito just stands there waiting for a response, he would yell further, "Hurry up! Bring it on!" But this overconfidence and willingness to engage just brings a cocktail of anger and fear to Iwan, as he grumbles, Your cockiness will be your demise, God Killer. Do not forget that each of these left you near death only days ago. Together, you will be annihilated. Do you understand?" To which Vegito would respond, "I understand perfectly, so hurry up and give me my just desserts." And just like that, Guts and Madara would then shoot off for Vegito, who immediately gets into fighting stance, readying himself without an ounce of hesitation. But as the master and student attack with elbow and fist simultaneously, a smiling Vegito is quick to just duck under, leading to what seems like an angered Madara to launch yet another attack. To think, I had problems reading your movements before, Madara. As instantly, as if avoiding attacks from just his younger son, Vegito would just hop over Madara's attack like it was nothing. But of course, undeterred, the puppet Guts would soon then launch his own attack. Really, Guts? You think I wouldn't notice that big clunking body of yours? Get real. Eventually leading to Guts appearing right behind Vegito, but of course, the God Killer wouldn't care less. Dodging the swipe of Guts' arm with the simplest of head movements without even facing him before. Don't get too close, God! Before, like a donkey being approached closely from behind, quickly swings his leg back and kicks Guts far off. Even with that pushback, the battle continues between the two, despite how one-sided it is as the puppet Madara watches on. But with of course nothing to say, the puppet would then launch in at what seems the perfect moment to step in. Oh, there you are, Madara. Reaching Vegito mid-fight from behind, but as he swings, Vegito quickly vanishes out of the way, leading to Madara striking his student instead, as Vegito yells from behind, "Hey! I don't think you're allowed to be beating your student, Madara! Tut tut! Maybe I'll have to be the one to dish out some disciplinary action here." as Vegito then begins powering in his palm a concentrated sphere of energy. Die! As suddenly, the Godzilla launches a barrage of ki blasts at the two members of the strongest, who just watch stunned, unable to move until Iwan moves them. And Iwan does exactly that in the end, as instantly Madara closes his hands together and summons his giant samurai titan at the very last moment, as each of the beams then crash on, exploding right on the protected Madara. While meanwhile, Guts surprisingly finds a way to escape, watching on from above as the smoke of the explosion dissipates. Peekaboo! But it's not long for the God Killer to notice, and he makes his appearance once again behind the once legendary swordsman. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be to just say hi, as in Vegito's right arm, an energy blade suddenly then appears. What? Wait! I won't be able to move him in time! Alarming Iwan, as he realizes no matter how dexterous he is, he will never be able to outspeed the God Killer at that distance. Sorry, Guts, but this is going to be a little bit of deja vu. As Vegito then thrusts his hand behind, ready to cut through Guts once more. Rest in pieces, my friend! And just like that, mercilessly, without any caution, Vegito would cut straight through the body of Guts. But for some reason, whether it is because the warrior is just a puppet or not, Guts barely reacts. But soon, a reason why appears, as inexplicably, straight out of the playbook of Vegito, slowly the gaping distance between his torso and legs would begin to be bridged until, finally, Guts would appear whole again, as if Vegito had done nothing. What? Did I just see what I thought I saw? Confusing Vegito, having never seen Guts do anything like this in their first battle. But the shock doesn't last long, as Vegito then says with a smile, I guess this is the power of reanimation, huh? Looks like I'm no longer the only immortal here. And in response, the silent warriors would just grunt back. As Guts and Madara then surround Vegito.
Alright, I'm gonna take a short break here.
There is a cold silence as neither side makes the first move until... Both Madara and Guts then simultaneously begin moving at super speed. Nice try, but I'm on a whole new level to you two now. And as soon as the three collide, the same story is seen. With the trio then battling all over the sky with absolutely nothing being landed on Vegito before the eyes of Iwan. What am I looking at? But when we zoom in on Iwan's expression, his eyes are wide open in shock as even he realizes he's keeping up with both of them. No, is he beating them? Yeah! Almost in a perfect answer to Iwan's thoughts, Vegeta would then effortlessly strike both Madara and Guts with a full force kick. Sending both to a brutal crash landing on the ground and near enough the same exact time. And with each of the former members of the five strongest completely dispatched of, and with ease, Vegeta cockily can't help but reflect, absolutely insane! The improvements I've made are night and day. This is a bigger jump than even when I rematched that freak Zarbon on Namek. Oh, how I still remember the look on his face. But the laughter is soon cut short, as from close by, Vegito begins to sense movement again. As shockingly, like true zombies rising from the dead, Madara and Guts come back to life and full consciousness, despite the earlier beatdown. Leaving Iwan now to seemingly have the last laugh as he yells, "So sorry, God Killer, but as long as I exist, these two will forever continue to fight too. Just give up because..." But mid-sentence, Iwan is left paralyzed into complete silence as before him, a horrifying and unexpected sight then appears. Hello, Destroyer! As suddenly, right before the face of Iwan appears Ultra Vegito, smirking with one hand on his hip nonchalantly and the other face palm first towards the god, as he looks down and says, "Well, if it's as long as you exist, Iwan, then I should just make sure you don't anymore." Hakai! Immediately then shouting the one word we all expected to erase Iwan finally, that is until... Wait! They'll be erased too! Iwan, with a look of pure terror and a trembling voice, would yell out a confusing statement. Huh? Causing Vegito to stop his destruction technique midway and question, "Those two will be erased too? What the hell are you talking about, you damn Yeti?" And Iwan, now serious, as he finally gets a chance to fight for his life, then begins, Yes, if you destroy me, those two will vanish too. They are only here because of my energy. You see these energy strings? They run through their whole body. And if you erase me, while my energy makes up their very being, once I disappear, they too will face the same fate. You don't want that, do you, God Killer? You're obviously saving them for some reason. Perhaps because only the destroyers and angels were part of the erasure of Earth. But whatever your reasoning, stick with it. Spare me, and me only. You've proven your point and given me a brutal defeat. I will disappear from this universe and never talk to a mortal again, let alone destroy one. I will even help you find Mule, if you wish. And with that said, suddenly a look of deep thought strikes Vegito, and he even then drops his palm as if actually agreeing. And without saying a word more, Vegito would then mysteriously turn his back to a nervous Iwan and begin walking towards Guts and Madara. And soon enough, Vegito would approach Guts first, the first of the 5 strongest, and perhaps one of the only gods Vegito had grown a level of respect for. And once Vegito and Guts lock eyes, Vegito can only say quietly, "What has he done to you, Guts? Do you even know who you're looking at anymore?" But of course, only monotonous groans or silence is what the lifeless puppet Guts gives back in return. Before Vegito would then continue, "Guts, it's true. You were nothing to do with what happened to my loved ones, and it wouldn't be fair to even say you allowed it to happen. You've existed for millennia, and to this day, I know not where you or Madara are from. Madara had mentioned a land beyond, and if it's different from this realm, then I cannot make the wrong decision here." But suddenly, a truly interesting phenomenon begins to develop, as from the right side of Vegito's skull, a small bump begins to develop, before then growing out quickly to a small horn, and finally, a full-length demon horn, just as we witnessed against Madara, and notably as he does so, a lone tear falls from Vegito's eyes. A horn? And Iwan from behind would instantly realize what this meant. Kai! As now, a demonically charged Vegito out of nowhere would then yell the chant he was supposed to finish earlier, tears still flowing, but said with conviction nonetheless. And just like that, the silent puppet Guts would erase instantly. You monster! You demon! Causing an instant shock and horror reaction from Iwan before... His fight or flight is activated, and he immediately just begins running for his life. Only serving though to anger Vegito more though, as he grumbles, "You made me do that, Yeti! You think you can run? You think you can run from me?" As Vegito immediately then swipes his right hand into the air before... Planetary Kai! And in a truly shocking, unexpected move, Vegito would then crash his palm into the face of the planet, pushing all his destruction power into the very core of the globe, causing huge ripples of energy, wind and power to shockwave everywhere as he does so until... In a flash of unfathomable light and speed, Iwan, Madara, and the entire planet are then erased on the spot and never to be seen again. And in the silent aftermath, Vegito is left all alone in the expanse of space, his right hand still trailing with destruction energy, as when we zoom in, a single trace of a tear remains in his eyes, as he looks down and finally says, "You were a fool to think that dirty trick would work on me, Destroyer. Those two deserve to just die and atone in the afterlife. But if you think I won't do anything to get my revenge on you, Destroyers, then you have another thing coming." But as Vegito says this, behind, almost without a hint of sound, a pair of feet descend. Well, that was an entertaining show, Godkiller. And suddenly, a mysterious new figure is revealed, with black hair, a symbol on his cheek, and draped in what could only be described as divine clothing, as the mystery warrior would then finally let out, "I'm guessing you know the deal by now. I am the third of the 5 strongest. You may call me Yamoshi." But that was it for today's video, guys, and if you made it this far, leave me a hashtag Yamoshi in the comments down below and let me know just how powerful. And if my signature editing up for early access to the incredible 3,800 that he is far from alone, as yet another member of the 5 arrives and is right behind the God Killer, as Yamoshi, the third of the 5 strongest, would just giggle, So this is the famous Saiyan fusion. The God Killer, as they say, huh? Well, I guess, after what I just witnessed, that can't be denied anymore. That was pretty heartless, don't you think, Vegito? While an annoyed and waning with patience Vegito would just respond, "Heartless? They had it coming and you know it. The real heartless decision here is approaching me now. I've just defeated the 2 members beneath you and a god. And this is the time you want to fight me in this condition? Hardly fair, don't you think?" But Yamoshi would just nonchalantly reply, "What? Is that supposed to be an excuse? Something impressive I'm supposed to take into account? Don't make me laugh, kid. I could have taken all 3 of those out without breaking a sweat." Immediately surprising Vegito as he begins to think if this stranger was bluffing or not. But Yamoshi, now with his arms folded, would not ease up and continue, "You don't need to worry about this being fair, young Vegito. If anything, I'm the one here a little worse for wear. Just before I came down here, I was in the demon realm. You do know us gods have jobs to do, right? We have to keep the order of the universe in check, either dealing with monsters like you in the mortal realm, or disposing of the daily victims in the demon realm who think they can foolishly breach out into the land of the mortals and gods. I probably killed about 100 or so of them before even coming here, so consider us equal." But Vegito, who despite the claims is totally unimpressed, cracks his knuckles as he replies, Listen, unless you're 100 times stronger than Guts and Madara combined, you can stop with the big talk, as I'm not interested. Saying you slaughtered a few demons is hardly an achievement to me. If you didn't know already, I destroyed a so-called demon emperor in just one move not too long ago. Yes. But as Vegito reveals this, Yamoshi's grin grows wider as he places one hand on his hips and clenches the other in front of him, letting out, Yes, I did see that. But unfortunately for you and your overinflated confidence, not all demons nor emperors are created equal. Whatever you took down was weak enough even Guts sealed it. And as for 100 times stronger, yeah, something like that. As suddenly out of nowhere, Yamoshi's eyes suddenly change from black to now yellow with a lone pupil. The mysteriously familiar eyes come with an ever-widening grin before. In a violent war that reminds us of only one species, Yamoshi powers up to what seems like his max power, as a white lightning bursts forth from his very paws. He stares directly into Vegito's eyes. But Vegito, seeming rather unbothered but smirking with his arms folded, would say, Interesting, God. You're definitely stronger than the two before you. But far from giving me that same feeling of amazement Guts first gave me. This power is hardly anything to worry about. Allow me to show you true strength, my friend! As in an even more ferocious roar, Vegito screams out with his muscles positively bulging, surrounding himself in aura and his signature black lightning matching perfectly with Yamoshi's white. Yes! Show me this power then, Saiyan! But totally eager regardless of the power unleashed by the God Killer, Yamoshi, like a true warrior, would rush in instantly at Vegito. Surprising Vegito, who with his newfound strength expected more trepidation. But not wanting to miss out on the fun, Vegito rushes in too, with the pair meeting until... With a monumental crash, both of their fists would land on each other simultaneously, one covered in black lightning and the other in white. And in the aftermath of such a godly collision, the universe itself reacts in terror, as a shockwave travels through the reaches of space, shaking and damaging every planet around. And when we zoom in on an individual planet... Hey! What's going on here? Run! The very inhabitants of each planet fear for their lives too. And on feedback, both fighters are then sent backwards through space, eventually regaining themselves as Vegito starts... Well, well, well. Perhaps you won't be as disappointing as first thought. I'd say our power levels seem almost even like this. Haha! While Yamoshi, smiling response, would say back, Oh really? What an astute observation. I guess we are somewhat the same for now. For now? Ooh, how ominous. You're getting my Saiyan blood fired up now, you know. To which Yamoshi, now with his teeth bared in a big grin, says strangely, Haha, mine too. regardless of the big clue Yamoshi had just given Vegito, the God Killer just excitedly rushes into battle once more, and Yamoshi, in tandem, does exactly the same. The two once again clashing equally. This time, their forearms mashed against each other as both yell to the heavens, trying to push against each other in vain. And eventually, within nanoseconds, the clash descends into a barrage of trading attacks, both landing and both defending against each other, without a hint of either side gaining an advantage. And with the whole of the universe for their fight to take place, every inch of the expanse is met with clashes as the two then fight hand to hand all over. Eventually landing punches on each other at the same time for devastating effect. And clashing legs for a bone-shattering crunch as both wince in pain. And with blood on his mouth and bruise all over, for a brief moment, mid-battle, Vegito would comment, "Amazing! This is a true battle! No swords, just blood, sweat and fists! I haven't had this much fun in a while! Well done, Yamoshi!" While a giggling back third would humor back, "Well, thanks for the compliment, God Killer. Always nice to know your would-be murderer is enjoying himself as he tries." Before, with that being said, suddenly Vegeta would then jump back to gain some distance. Huh? Much to the surprise of Yamoshi, who would continue, "What now? I thought you were enjoying our little dance, Saiyan. Don't tell me you aren't ready for round two." And for a brief moment, electricity begins to build up once again over the leg and body of Vegito, and then similarly over Yamoshi too. "Right! I've gauged your fighting ability long enough now. Show me how you deal with this, God! CallmeARJ's! Before in a sudden twist, Vegito would begin placing his hands together as a shining ball of energy is created out of thin air before... Equal this, fool! Blasting it instantly at full power and at short distance from the palm of his hands. Oh, Vegito, you truly underestimate. But in response, in one of the most unbothered stances imaginable, Yamoshi, even in that instant, would close his eyes and just play with the top of his head. "If witnessing my true energy is what you desire, then I'll send you to hell with just my fingers! Final!" As Yamoshi then in return claps his hands together, interlocking them with two fingers pointed towards the impending Kamehameha wave coming towards him before yelling, "Ray!" With his eyes flashing yellow and veins beginning to pulsate through his forehead, Yamoshi would fire off his own blast at the very last second. Just like that, in a truly divine display of unfathomable power, Yamoshi and Vegito then begin to appear like mere microbes in comparison to the huge masses of energy they both let out at each other. As Vegito, smiling from end to end, enjoying himself, would yell, "Amazing! Whatever that weird technique of yours is, it's actually keeping up. I'm gonna enjoy learning that once I take your energy." While the equally smiling Yamoshi claps back, "Be my guest, God Killer, but first, just try and beat me back!" As The two then continue to push forward with full power, but closing an eye each as they push themselves to the very limit, before finally they both have the exact same idea and yell out, "Enough of this! Die!" And just like that, in a humongous explosion that surely sends every planet in the vicinity shooting off from their orbit, and a light so bright the still battle-thrilled faces of Vegito and Yamoshi are lost in it too. But eventually, as the smoke clears, Yamoshi at least is seen still standing, his body a mess and his armor covered in debris and damage, as with a still cheeky smile covering his face and one eye open, he comments, My, you surprise me. To think a Saiyan of your generation would come this far in so little time. I could have used a training partner like you back in the old days." But finally, Vegito too appears from the explosion. He too injured, but he too with nothing short of an enthusiastic smirk, as he replies, "My generation? Why must you gods always act like such old-timers? You look younger than me!" Huh? Before instantly, Vegito vanishes before the eyes of Yamoshi, leaving only the last bits of smoke from the explosion behind. Surprise! Instantly reappearing right in front of Yamoshi, slamming a rising kick right onto the chin of the completely taken off guard third. Damn it! Sending the momentarily disengaged Yamoshi flying into the midst of space before... It's time! I got you out of here! As the God Killer, watching from afar, places his right hand out, ready to do something, but it doesn't look like just any ordinary kibi. What? And shockingly, instead of firing off at Yamoshi, behind the third, a time portal inexplicably opens instead. No! What are you doing? Which the still flying back uncontrollably Yamoshi is then quickly drawn into. Eventually leaving Vegito, now all alone in the current timeline, as he lets out, "This should be fun." While meanwhile, the foot of Yamoshi, having left the time portal, then steps lightly onto a familiar looking tiled floor. But once we finally see where Yamoshi had ended up, it's more shocking than ever anticipated, as a young Goku and Piccolo clash in the finals of the World Martial Arts Tournament, right in front of a bemused Yamoshi who comments, "What? Isn't that... Who's that?" But of course, Yamoshi is the least of the confused beings there, as both the young Piccolo and Goku react in total bamboozlement as Goku comments, "Wait, his energy, can you sense that?" While Piccolo remains astonished, muttering, "Ugh." But now becoming angered over all the mortal civilians reacting to him and the sudden placement in another timeline, Yamoshi would begin thinking, "That idiot. He used the time rings he stole to do this to me, didn't he? What does he expect? That I'll just be stuck here forever? Coward. Like that would even work." But as Yamoshi looks around pondering, the flustered Goku immediately looks to his once enemy Piccolo and says, "Piccolo, listen, I don't know about you, but this guy looks like bad news. Everyone could be in danger right now if we don't move him away. How about we call a truce just for now? Just for a few minutes. You can get a free punch in later, I promise." To which the equally panicked on the inside Piccolo would respond, "Fine, but just to be clear, I'm doing this only so I can fight you at your best, Son Goku. Once he's gone, you're next." Huh? He's here! But suddenly, as Goku and Piccolo agree, Yamoshi looks to the sky, suddenly noticing a spike of energy appearing out of nowhere in this strange timeline. Well, this brings back memories. As suddenly, Ultra Vegito finally reappears himself, seemingly not done with Yamoshi, even if in an entirely different timeline and universe. And like some kind of demonic angel, he descends to the ground slowly at first, saying, "Yamoshi, looks like me and you are going to be finishing this tournament. You ready? I'm about to make my big entrance." Before suddenly, down below, Yamoshi notices the God Killer shooting down at speed, as internally, the quite calm member of the Five thinks, "Here, he wants to fight me right here with all these mortals around. This is his planet, isn't it? I thought this guy cared for the lives of others." Before suddenly, as expected, Vegito does land with a crash, but seemingly a controlled one, as the ground remains intact, as shockwave from his power alone, instead pushing both Goku and Piccolo away. Sending both of the young warriors crashing into walls behind them, with loud impacts incapacitating them, but definitely keeping them alive as expected from Vegito. Whoa! What have we got going on here? Attention, ladies and gentlemen, 2 new fighters have entered the ring! And in typical fashion, the announcer just yells at what he sees, naively thinking this is all part of the plan. But Yamoshi, having seen enough, jumps from the stage, unaffected by the impact of Vegito's fall. Before in an instant, he's already near the time portal in the sky, aiming to leave now rather than engage in front of the audience. But Vegito, who is slightly disappointed in his retreat, just looks up with an unimpressed closed smirk saying, "Well, would you look at that? To think I was starting to like you, Yamoshi, and now you're running like the cowardly god you are. Come back here!" And instantly giving chase, Vegito would leave behind everyone in the past and shoot off to the portal, chasing after the third. Soon enough vanishing into the alternate dimension, with the portal closing behind him. And as we get a glimpse onto the other side, we see a very strange but mysteriously familiar looking city with a red sun in the background. But the peaceful quiet is disturbed quickly as explosions are seen rushing all down the cityscape in a straight line. That's what you get for pulling me into these weird timelines, Godkiller! As we then finally see what is causing all the damage, and it is of course Vegito and the third fighting across, with Yamoshi landing a right hook right on the face of Vegito. Why you? And the flying backwards uncontrollably Vegito would continue to hurtle through buildings, eventually smashing through the wall of a certain large facility. What is this? Gods! But soon the building area and timeline is revealed, as sitting down positively shocked is King Vegeta in his throne room as... Quickly, two of his elite guards step up in front of him to protect him, both watching as the two strange warriors duke it out in front until... How dare you two fools disturb the king! I'll have your heads! Angrily then rushing to Vegito and Yamoshi until... Soon, their knuckleheads realize the power and caliber of the fighters in front of them, and the two immediately stop in their tracks, with the bold one saying, Rubble, I say you go first, to which the other responds, yeah, right, you're the senior here. But soon the fight carries on into the sky, as Vegito bursts through the ceiling as Yamoshi chases after him with speed. But Vegito, looking back with a smile, would taunt, yes, that's it, deity! Follow the leader! While Yamoshi would respond, you're so childish, you know that? You're lucky I'm still enjoying this battle. And the two reach higher and higher into the sky until they eventually immediately continue their battle, trading and deflecting blows from one another while flying at insane speeds. But totally unexpected, a mysterious Saiyan with a scar on his face and a hairstyle that could be mistaken for Goku's notices the ruckus and turns quickly. What the? And in the sky before him, he witnesses the absolute circus of a battle that is going on between the two legendary warriors, fighting all over the skybox. And soon, as he stands paralyzed in shock, his wife would soon approach asking, Bardock? What's wrong, honey? What are you looking at? Leaving the stunned Bardock to just mutter out, Gine! Can't you see them? That power! Could they really be Frieza's men? Quickly, get me Kakarot! We need to send him off now! But as his father unknowingly watches on, Vegito rushes in maniacally yet again at Yamoshi to try and finish him off. But unfortunately this time, Yamoshi catches his fist right into his palm, grimacing as he does so until... Get us back to the present, fool! Screaming with intense anger now, totally incensed by the Godkiller's lack of respect for the laws of time travel. And instantly, as if somehow controlling Vegito's time rings without even wearing them, a new portal opens right in front of a completely taken by surprise Vegito, who can hardly believe his eyes. Ha! Good boy, Vegito! And with that, Yamoshi lets go and once again escapes into the time portal, leaving the God Killer in his dust. How? But the shocking confusion of what had just happened had not left Vegito, as with a stunned face, he continues to try and process why the time rings acted on Yamoshi's command. Huh? But as he wonders, Yamoshi has already escaped. You damn god! Turning Vegito's confusion to anger before... In a flash, the God Killer finally leaves the past also. And as the two finally meet again in the present timeline, once more, their smiles are all gone, as both warriors stare coldly at one another, with Vegito beginning. You will explain how and why my time rings responded to your orders, God. To which Yamoshi would just reply, to hell would I know, God Killer. Maybe these tools you've stolen recognize that you're no god, and therefore not worthy to even wield them. It's only natural they would react to the call of a true deity. Next will be that staff of yours too. But soon, Yamoshi would quit the tough talk and fold his arms with a relaxed smile and say, regardless of whether you're a thief or not though, what you definitely are is extremely reckless. God help you if you ever meet Cronoa, for she will have your head. But at least, you'll go out a true bona fide Saiyan. The kind that reminds me of my past. It's fun when we're this evil. And the smirk is reciprocated on Vegito, but more sinister in tone as Vegito lets out, a bona fide Saiyan? You speak like you actually know plenty about my people. A god who actually cares to know what mortals are like? What a joke. You don't seem to be as bad as the other ones I've met so far. But it's just unfortunate that just like them, you will share the same fate. And that's not even the most tragic thing here. Huh? Confusing Yamoshi with that last line, as the third would then inquire more. My death not being the most tragic thing? What a strange thing to say, Vegito. But do tell, what is so tragic then, God Killer? And with a beastly groan, Vegito would then simply say, what's tragic, Yamoshi, is that this isn't even my final form! One sentence said, a demonic yell from below would roar out of Vegito, as his entire body becomes enveloped in a dark purple energy, and black lightning bursts forth and multiplies. And as Vegito's monstrous energy continues right in front of Yamoshi, not even the panel itself anymore can contain his aura. As standing in front with a completely mesmerized expression, the third can hardly believe what he's sensing as he mutters, oh, this is what he had in him? Now this is surely something. And as Vegito continues to roar into the heavens, his body begins transforming also. As first, his canines begin to grow ever so slightly, before then his torso becomes engrossed in a rough purple fur, before from his backside, a pointed signature tail then begins to sprout out, until finally, on the chest of the Godkiller, a glowing violent purple V crest would imprint once again on the chest of Vegito. As from either side of his face, now both horns also finally become visible once again. And, finally, I'm back. As now standing there proudly with his arms flexed, surrounded in sparking black thunder, and a bright, confident smile on his face as he looks to the sky, Vegito has finally returned to his Ultra Demon form. Before eventually he brings his head right down and lets out, "Now, Mr. Third, care to finish what you were saying about us being equal?" You fool. You were a fun distraction, but you were never anything to me, just like I had said from the start. This power of mine is a mix of countless gods, both Guts, Madara, and even one of those so-called demon emperors you all fear. What else did you expect? This is your full power? And left now seemingly completely stunned, only able to mutter a few words at a time it appears, is Yamoshi, eyes wide open and almost trembling until... You're right. Suddenly, Yamoshi's face takes a turn for the worst as all signs of fear or surprise are lost, and with a confident smile, the third would let out, "You're absolutely correct. Turns out, with this little reveal of yours, we aren't as equal as I had first thought at all, Vegito. How unfortunate for you." As instantaneously Yamoshi powers up, turning his hair from black to blonde, his eyes from yellow to green, and completely surrounded now in an iconic yellow aura. In one fell swoop, the third strongest in the multiverse had multiplied his power by 50 times and become a Super Saiyan. What? Completely shell-shocking the Godkiller as his earlier cockiness is erased, and what is left is complete confusion as he just lets out, You're a Saiyan? There's no way! How? And as Yamoshi in his Super Saiyan state begins to enjoy the fear across the Godkiller's face, he would finally let out, "There's no way, you say? So you're not convinced yet? Well, I'll just show you then that I'm not just a Saiyan, Vegito. I am the first and the only true Super Saiyan God!" Before Yamoshi would then grit his teeth, spike his hair even higher up, and then launch into an even more insane power-up than what Vegito had just shown, as slowly his yellow aura turns to orange and then turns to red. As he transforms, something similar to how Goku looked transforming into a Super Saiyan 3 begins to occur, as Yamoshi loses his eyebrows and his hair begins to grow out wide. And before now Vegito's face, just as Yamoshi had to experience before him, the third's power shoots off into space itself, dwarfing what the Godkiller had done previously. And eventually, the aura and power is so great, everything is lost in a sharp, bright light until... Standing there at the epicenter of the transformation is what looks like an all-new Yamoshi in an all-new form. His hair blood red and far longer, his aura red too, but fiery in nature, and his eyes now eyebrowless and fixated on Vegito. And in this truly divine state, the true first Super Saiyan God would let out, "Behold, young Saiyan, the power of the legendary warrior seen only every 1,000 years in our species. This is the true final form of a Super Saiyan God." Before placing his arms down now in complete calm and frightening nature, declaring, "Now, show me how you will deal with me, now that I am 1,000 times stronger than before." And on immediate hearing of this final claim, all the God Killer can now do is mutter, I can't defeat you." But that was it for today's video.
Alright, that's it for that. I'm gonna come back on here and play a little Lamb, Cult of the Lamb. So if you're interested, stay tuned.